live, and I'm gonna go live on our Instagram. All right, it says we are live in both places. So you have to, okay, you have to go to the As One Foundation and I guess request to join me.
It's not showing me to do that yet, but I do see us live on Facebook.
Okay. All right, I sent the request to you.
Oh, maybe I need to.
This is Instagram.
Oh, okay. So let me click on Facebook on here.
Okay. Hi, what is that? Watt Gilson, Sickle Cell 2020. Hi. What does waving do? I'm gonna wave.
I'm not seeing the request.
On Instagram?
On Instagram?
It's on Instagram, on the As One Foundation Instagram.
Okay. I was looking at Facebook.
Yeah, we're all set on Facebook. So
My first time doing.
well, while you look for us, I'm gonna go ahead and say good morning. This is a new time for Warrior Talk Tuesday. Coming to you as we begin the month of November. I am Dr. Tamia Austin. I am the executive director of the As One Foundation, and we come together to you on this virtual platform because, as we've been saying, sickle cell trait. No, As One Foundation. Oh, are you saying it is? It's on my personal? Okay, I got to go out of that then. How do I do that? Okay, end video. So I'm going to go back to Instagram and go live from the As One Foundation page. That's what I need to do. But we've been saying that the sickle cell and sickle cell trait warriors are vulnerable. So when they are vulnerable, we go virtual. And it's sort of a play on that other, statement. If you know it, you're in. If not, it's all good. But all right. All right, I was right there. So we have to respond. We have to respond how we have to respond. So there we are. We're checking connection on Instagram and on our Facebook screen so that we can capture both of our audiences. All right. So I'm going to search for you. I don't want to say your name just in case, so it can be a surprise to some people. All right. Okay, there we go. So anyway, here we are. We're virtual, but we still have work to do. We have things to discuss, and it is the Thanksgiving month. We have lots to be thankful for. We have been doing a lot here at the As One Foundation. There you are. So we want to talk to you about it and talk to you from the standpoint of how and why we do what we do, with research being the theme for this week. So as soon as our guest joins us on the Instagram side of the house, we will get started. It's saying waiting for you.
I sent a request.
You sent a request? Okay, let's see. There you are. Oh, it's telling me to send a request.
Oh. Okay, so then.
There we go. Yay! You are there.
Give me an echo.
Yeah, just turn the volume down on one of them, and I'm going to do the same thing. So turn the volume down on Instagram, and we'll go with the Facebook volume. hey, this is the way things are done in today's time. So um, I have the honor and privilege of introducing to you one of my absolute favorite persons in the world. I'm going to let her do all the details, but I'll just let you know that she is a trait warrior and she is a board member of the As One Foundation. And with that, I'll hush and have you take it away. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Austin, for having me. I am Dr. Alexandria Washington. I am a three-time graduate of Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. So Dr. Austin and I know each other from our journey through, at the time I was in the MPH program and she was working on her doctorate. So we had an opportunity to meet and connect through there, and from her, just dragging it into us. This mission and this organization is something that I believe in and absolutely love. So I'm proud to serve as a board member now, because the work and the backstory is just something that, especially being a millennial, that we need to discuss more and talk about more, especially as it pertains to our health, as it pertains to our futures, and even as it pertains to our past. So outside of serving as a board member, I am the founder of Change the Narrative, and it is a boutique health education company. So I work with other brands and other nonprofits and organizations to help with their messaging and ensure that it's culturally competent and really focused on getting that health education material out to millennials. So making sure that we're on brand, it's something that other millennials are interested in. It really speaks to us and how we can really focus on our health. So I do a lot of work around that. And of course, working with the As One Foundation as one of the board members.
I mean, how do you have time to do anything? I mean, you squeezed us in and we're honored, especially on this very special day. I mean, I'm normally in my genotype shirt, but it's important, y'all. Do you see that? It is election day. If you haven't already, cast your early vote, brave the temperatures or whatever. But we got you here on election day, on Warrior Talk Tuesday. And you mentioned our backstory. So I'll just give a little bit about that. As I also just reiterate how lucky and blessed we are to have a person of your caliber. Also, amongst the affected community, working behind the scenes to help us bring our message more to the forefront. That backstory began with identical twins that were born in Nassau. They did not, the parents, the story is told, the parents and the doctor did not know twins were coming until Devon followed Devard out of the birth canal. The entire birth, they had been hearing two hearts beating as one. And that significance is illustrated in the fact that fast forward 18 years, they are in the United States, have been living in Texas, beginning as of 11-year-olds, I think, but eventually were nationally recruited as football players and ultimately chose Florida State University to play. One would play defense, the other would play offense. And that is where they learned that they had the sickle cell trait. And they were educated to not procreate, but ultimately, sickle cell trait was nothing to worry about. You would live a normal life, and they were sent on their way. And unfortunately, at the end or beginning of their sophomore year, during off-season conditioning workouts, Devon actually um, uh, met his early, untimely, highly preventable demise due to sickle trait exertion. His death certificate actually says exhaustion and rhabdomyolysis complicated by sickle cell trait. And that would leave his living twin with a determination, of course, while grieving, to honor his brother's memory, make sure that he would not be forgotten. And that would give him the strength to forge forward and leave Florida State, because they would not allow him to continue to play football as a scholarship athlete, and end up way across the United States at Washington State, where he would play for 2 years, break all the records, playing with Devon's photo inside of his pads every game, make it to the National Football League, and establish the As One Foundation to honor his brother's memory. And that was in 2007. And here we are in 2020, still going, after a few mission modifications. Alex, you were part of this recent one that establishes the As One Foundation as empowering families globally, delivering life-saving sickle cell education. We are now encompassing sickle cell and sickle cell trait education within our mission. And despite COVID-19, despite quarantining and having to hunker down in our homes, we are still relevant. And unfortunately, sickle cell related deaths are still occurring. One as recent as, I want to say it was August, a young man's in football practice, his death was associated with his sickle cell trait. So unfortunately, our work is still, a lot cut out for us, but that is the backstory of the As One Foundation. We want to prevent the death that Devon suffered by educating. And we're here to say that research is one way. Alex, can you just tell us just a little bit about, we both are doctors of public health, and sickle cell obviously is a public health issue, but can you just give us just the, one or two sentences about the what public health is, and then, connect it back to sickle cell?
It's very hard to ask a researcher to give you one or two sentences on.
Yes, I know. I know. But you're a FAMU researcher, so I know you got this. I know you got this.
Really focuses on essentially population health and how we look and work towards prevention of health conditions and diseases. So a lot of times in medicine, you just focus on that one individual and how can you prolong diseases from happening, or how you can prolong their lives. But with public health, we look at the whole population and say, hey, instead of just helping one person, how do we help 50 people that are experiencing the same thing? How do we help 100 people? How do we help 1,000 people? So our focus is really on the population and really more geared towards prevention, and how do we keep people healthy, and how do we allow them to live their optimal lives with optimal health.
And certainly, I'm still like amazed when I talk to people and make them aware of the fact that, yes, sickle cell affects 100,000 people, 90 to 100,000 people in the United States, but sickle cell trait affects approximately 4 million in the United States and 300 million worldwide. So that's a population for you, right? And then as much as we are aware of the crisis pain and other adverse health issues that are suffered by people living with sickle cell, it is more and more reported the associated adverse health effects of those living with sickle cell trait. And then one condition considered to be rare is the cancer that is associated with sickle cell trait, called renal medullary carcinoma. This is a cancer that is mostly diagnosed in stage 4, which makes it fatal. It is rare, and the only real way to diagnose it is through an ultrasound of the kidney, which at this point is not a preventative measure. It is something that happens, by the time there's blood in the urine, it's often too late, or by accident. I'm aware of one particular case where a baby was approximately 18 months old and not walking, not having any movement in the lower extremities. So they were doing testing to just try to determine what was going on in this hips or the legs or even the groin region, and discovered a tumor in this baby, this Caucasian baby, who was sickle cell trait positive. and was diagnosed positively for RMC, but she was stage 1 or 2, I believe. Ultimately was able to have the tumor removed, and she is now, I want to say, in double digits now. So that's like the ding ding for me, that if we could get these tests done early, then maybe we could prevent these fatal diagnoses of RMC, even though it is a rare condition. I know the statistics and what's statistically significant and all of that, but I would wonder how statistically significant the life of a mother's son or daughter is, even if it's only 2 or 3 or 30 or 100, in comparison to some other numbers. So the funding, the funding that is needed, the how do we bridge this gap? How do we bridge that? Research requires funding, and we need funding to conduct research. And so we just came out of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And what did you see, Dr. Washington? What did you observe about the month of October? What do you see out there?
So I had the honor of actually working with a lot of breast cancer awareness organizations, and there's so much money put into breast cancer awareness. And it's not because one condition or one disease is more important than the other. It's really how we focus and look at who these conditions and diseases are impacting. So when we think of breast cancer awareness and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we unfortunately, the face that we see a lot of time is young white women. And so when you're talking about young white women historically, you know that money is really kind of put into ensuring that they live healthy, optimal lives. When you think of sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease, the face of sickle cell trait and disease is usually people of African descent, so Black people. And when you see that face, unfortunately, a lot of people are like, well, it doesn't apply to me. So why do I need to donate? Why do I need to care? And that has really translated into research.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of large figureheads in the sense that when it comes to sickle cell trait and disease, there's not a lot of nationally known like professionals or actors, actresses that have been diagnosed as that have suffered from it, that have come out and publicly spoken about it. Of course, we do have people that do speak about it, and usually around football time, you see more people, especially if they're playing in Denver, because it's such a high altitude. You'll see a lot of players having to sit out that have sickle cell trait just for their health. But if we're not having those conversations, if we're not seeing that nationally and we're not seeing it regularly, then people just put it in the back of their mind. And also when it comes to funding and research, a lot of times it's like, well, if it's not happening to me, why should I care? When it comes to legislators, they're like, well, it's not impacting me, it's not impacting my community, so why do I need to sponsor this bill? Why do I need to try to get funding for these issues? But what we're starting to see is that more funding and more research is happening because we're starting to really understand that although we might say that it primarily affects and impacts people of African descent or Mediterranean descent, that really is kind of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of seeing like that dark skinned person that has sickle cell disease or sickle cell trait, now you're starting to see people with fair complexions. You're starting to see kids that are blonde and with blue eyes. And although they might not identify as being of African descent, they or of Mediterranean descent, like they still have that in their lineage and it's still impacting them. So we're starting to see more funding, but it's still not enough. And we're starting to have more research, but it's still not enough because we've had centuries to do this research to get this funding. And we're really playing catch up right now. And until we get the conversation going, until we get more people that are willing to talk about it, until we have more people that are really kind of gun ho on understanding that maybe because it doesn't impact me personally, there's someone that I know that and love that it could be impacting. If there's someone that they might know and love that it's impacting. And until our whole world is healthy, until our generation is healthy, then none of us really are, because it can affect us, whether it be close or 6 degrees away. Like, the impact is still there. So this is something that we all need to champion for and all need to get behind.
I mean, I wish I could just record that and publish it, because that is what we have to have on all the billboards. So you raise a couple of points. I often raise the point about October and all of the great work that's done, as they turn the world pink and, make connection, and what we're calling creating the allies, those unaffected in the population that won't develop breast cancer and may not actually have someone in their immediate family affected by it, but have taken on some level of responsibility, whether they write a couple checks or are out there cheering at the races or volunteering. Um, those unaffected have been a huge difference maker in taking them to this global attention space that they have. And another contrasting effort that we're living through right now is the Black Lives Matter moment. This Black Lives Matter is different, but it's because other than Black lives have proclaimed that Black Lives Matter and are funding the cause. And again, just an example of what an ally is. And for our purposes, not having sickle cell or not having sickle cell trait, not necessarily having it in your immediate family or you're the caregiver of someone with sickle cell or sickle cell trait, but recognizing your ability to make the difference with a monthly donation, with volunteer hours, with studying it in research, or championing the cause, whether it's through the legislative process, helping to push something to become a bill, to become a law. We are in the business of ally building. That is the business of the As One Foundation, and that is where the research is also important, because we can show that sickle cell trait is not as asymptomatic, or is not asymptomatic as it is reported. And we are making efforts to have the American Medical Association, or whoever is responsible for curriculum building for medical schools, to increase that 5 minutes that most medical school students get on sickle cell trait, and possibly maybe a 2-week lecture on sickle cell, which is included in just the entire genetics lecture. So building those allies, I would normally be wearing my my genotype shirt, because we say that if you have blood, well, how's the statement? So everyone with blood does not have sickle cell, but everyone with blood does have a sickle cell genotype. And that is genotype AA. 2 copies of the normal genotype is without sickle cell or sickle cell trait. 1 copy, like you, Alex, 1 copy of the sickle cell gene and 1 copy of a normal gene is AS. And 2 copies of the abnormal hemoglobin gene is SS. And then it goes on from there for approximately 100 different genotypes. We focus on approximately 11 or 12 of them, but we're trying to build this community right here. Those that are not affected, but can help us, make a difference. Can you think of other examples of in public health where the research and the ally building has produced phenomenal attention for a public health issue?
Honestly, when you think of any other type of cancers, whether it be colorectal cancer or lung cancer, like I have my family's personally been impacted by lung cancer with my uncle passing from it. So that's how we were brought into it. But when it comes to colorectal cancer, it's like we may not have known someone personally, but it's like, well, it still can happen to me. It still can happen to anybody in my family. So it seems like any other condition or disease, that's how you build this movement. It's just been so much slower when it comes to sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease because there is that negative stigma that it's only associated with people of African descent. So it's not my problem if that's not how I identify. And that's what we have to break through, and that's what we have to get past, especially in the medical community, especially just in our personal lives too, understanding the importance of caring for other people, whether it impacts us personally or whether it doesn't.
I'm looking away just to see if we have any questions in the chat. I'm I'm on my Zoom screen, but I'm looking at my Instagram screen, and now I'm gonna go over here to the Facebook screen just to make sure as we close out, we're not missing any questions from our listeners. This is, this is the setup for this giving season. November, Thanksgiving is right around the corner. Can you believe 2020 is almost over? It's been an eventful year to say the least. And, being on election day, you've spent some time in this legislative process for the state of Florida. And sickle cell has gotten some recent attention from, a congressional, we attended a congressional meeting on sickle cell trait that was sponsored by a federal legislator. But we've had bills passed in the state of Texas that have been in support of it. But there was, I can't believe I'm not thinking of his name. I almost said it. But anyway, the state of Florida statute that established these cooling tubs as prevention of, and that came as a result of this family. Do you remember the story?
I don't remember the story. I do know what legislation you're kind of talking.
Yes. That legislation came from, okay, so we can actually characterize the legislators as allies because it was a family that brought this to them. And I don't know if they got an appropriation, but they definitely got a representative to sponsor it in the House. And correct me if I'm wrong, the process, then it gets sponsored in the Senate and so on, and they have to get votes and whatever. I believe it's Zachary's Law or something like that. The Zach Martin Foundation, they had been working to not only just honor their son's memory who died of heat stroke, but also to make a difference for the future. So they have a platform now. They've got the law passed. They've got a website where they're able to receive funding, and they're posting pictures regularly of providing these cooling tubs to schools throughout Florida. I mean, it's just the perfect example of, and while the research tells us that it's not just heat strokes that are risks for sickle cell trait exertional deaths, it can be nice and cool outside. But if your body enters that oxidative stress state and you're not able to recover and you're dehydrated, then it could be fatal. So heat stroke is definitely one of the ways to intervene. And we certainly look forward to the opportunity to work with them. We've got to educate more and more. We've got to drill into these coaches that these young players cannot go hard when their bodies are telling them you need to hydrate. But again, that's what drives the funding. And while the As One Foundation, we are supported by the generous outreach of our board members, such as yourselves. We receive individual donations, grant funding, and we couldn't survive, without the individual donations. So we're coming up on we are here. We are at the giving season, and you've been a part of some great fundraising But I just would like for you to let our audience know how, you talked about changing the narrative, and you've certainly helped us with our mission pivot.
Mhm.
So how do we keep in touch with you as we work to continue to shine the light on public health issues such as sickle cell awareness, sickle cell and sickle cell trait awareness? We'll post in the comments and anything that's coming up on the horizon for you.
Yes, of course. So I'm pretty active on social media. All of my accounts are the same, Alexandria J. Wash. And I talk a lot about different organizations that I'm working with. Of course, always talking about the As One Foundation and the amazing work that Dr. Austin's doing, that the board members are doing, and just making sure that's a year-round conversation and not just a conversation that's focused in September during the Awareness Month. But outside of that, I'm always available on my website. It's www.changethenarrativellc.com. I'm always available there, keeping up to date with some of the different things that I'm doing. But right now, I'm really just focusing on helping build the mission of the As One Foundation and making sure that we go into this next season, this next year, as strong as we can be, because the research is getting out there. We're understanding that more people are impacted and affected with sickle cell disease and trait. And as we work to be that global organization that people come to and understand that they can get medically accurate information that is digestible, that they can understand, I'm just helping really make sure that we get that word out and our focus is there. So that's what I'm up to now, and that's what I'll be up to for a while.
Good. Speaking of that, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our brand new Director of Curriculum and Design, Lisa Rose, who works behind the scenes to help us, develop this newsletter, our social media content. I mean, it's just increased quality by leaps and bounds since she's been aboard. And I mean, I'm particularly proud of our November edition. So please visit our social media. The link to the November newsletter is there, and we'll put it in the comments for this um, talk today so that you can click right to it and not have to go and search. And if you haven't, please join our email list so you can get it directly to your mailbox. But it tells you all about why the As One Foundation is doing what we're doing and why we need your help to do more. There's Thanksgiving, but there's Black Friday. Alex, do you know what is it Small Business Saturday? Then what is Sunday? Do you know what Sunday is?
Sunday has a designation.
I don't think so either. But then there's Cyber Monday, and then drum roll, there's Giving Tuesday. So after you've spent all your money, you can donate your piece of change to a charity. And we hope that you'll be so inspired by our social media campaign that's going to be showing you how you can give to the As One Foundation. We need it. We need monthly gifts. We need weekly gifts. We need daily gifts. But that is how we will, and we are adjusting to this COVID-19 period, and being digital, being relevant means being digitally relevant. We have desires to, provide tablets and laptops to all of the young people so that they can get the Operation Hydration education before they get on those courts and playing fields. But in the meantime, we're developing the content. That costs. Lisa should be paid well for what she does. This is charity work, but it is work that ain't free. It's free to who we develop it for, but it costs to make it. So please visit the As One Foundation page, like us, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're not quite on TikTok yet. Um, and we'll post all of Dr. Alexandria Washington, what is it? Alex J. Wash. So the @ Alex J. Wash is where you'll find her, and Changing the Narrative LLC.org. Our website is asonefoundation.org. We are here every Tuesday this month. On Warrior Talk Tuesday, we're going to tell you more and more about the As One Foundation and how and why we do our work. Thank you so much, Dr. Washington, for being with us.
Way that people can donate even leading up to Giving Tuesday. So as you're preparing for your holiday shopping, if you're like me and shop on
Yes.
Amazon Smile, it donates a portion or donates some proceeds every time you shop online through Amazon Smile. You select the As One Foundation as the benefactor, and it's easy. Like you
It's
just
so easy. Every dollar you spend, we get a nickel. I think that's the way it works. Every dollar you spend, we get a nickel, and that adds up, you know? So we'll take that. And if you don't do any of that, look, we are on Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. What is it? It's another one I'm forgetting. At As One Foundation, you can just go to your Cash App right now. As One Foundation, Venmo, As One Foundation, PayPal, and I can't believe Venmo. Did I say that one already? Well, anyway, you can give that way too. Thank you, Madam Board Member, for reminding me reminding me of that. So we'll close there. We'll see you all next week. We have a great guest lined up. We actually have great guests lined up for the rest of the month. We wish you happy election day. We remind you, if you haven't done already, to vote. And I'll just give a special shout out to my grandmother. May she rest in peace. 294 days missing, my being a baby. Signing off now. We'll see you all next week. This has been Warrior Talk Tuesday. Have a great day.
Hi, everyone.